Hello, everybody. This is Peter and Sylvia. We're back with another topic that we have talked about before and we'll talk about again and again and again. And it's called compassion. Compassion at work. There's an awful lot of talk about empathy, which is great. Empathy we must have. But what do we do with it? It doesn't get anywhere further than that, does it? So we start with sympathy. Oh, that's really, I'm so sorry to hear that. Then empathy is, oh, wow, but I get it. And then we go on to compassion, where we not only get it, but we also start to do something about it. We offer more than just arm around the shoulder. We can talk about solutions. We can suggest ways forward. We take some kind of action, whether that is professional action or whether it is simply because we are all, as you and I say all the time, simply human beings. We all have the ability to be human towards one another.
Yeah.
And at work, one of the things that I object to a lot is this: you must look after your employees, must look after your employees. Yes, you must. But the employees might as well look after each other. When do we ask, how are you doing, to the boss, to the CEO? Why must empathy, compassion, kindness be something that trickles down from the top? The only reason I can see is in organizations. If the top doesn't want it, it doesn't happen. But even then, it shouldn't stop us as individuals to just be kind and compassionate to one another. Or what do you think?
I agree. Simple, I agree. It can be top down, bottom up, sideways, diagonal. We're all human and we all have stuff going on. I often use the phrase, behind every face there's a story. We all have things that we have to deal with on a daily basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, ongoing all the time. And I am a firm believer in compassion. Empathy is great, compassion is even better. I also think that sometimes empathy is great, however, there's sometimes when we can get caught in what I would call the empathy loop or get stuck in it. Oh, Peter, that's terrible. Oh, that's awful. Yeah, I've had something similar. Oh, that's terrible. And we get stuck in that loop. And there's almost like a collusion, is that the right word? Always get stuck in that. But rather than that's awful, that's terrible, okay, how can I help you with that? What would you like me to do? Is there anything I can do for you? What would be a good way forward for you if there's anything at the moment that I can do? That then moves things forward. We have to be careful not moving things, let's move on. It has to be at that certain person's pace.
Yeah.
It's more about the actions. And I wonder, as I'm talking there, whether people get caught in the empathy because they don't know what to do next. But a simple question like, okay, so what would you like from me? What can we do? What would you like to have happen? Is far more constructive, and that compassion in the workplace. If you remember, we are all human. I think that would be, and it sounds perhaps too simple, but sometimes these things can be that simple, I think.
Really interesting that you use the word too simple. But I like it. Because if we don't do simple, if we don't do basic stuff first, all the complicated and technical stuff has nowhere to sit. So we can complicate and put bells and whistles on top of everything as much as we like. But if we haven't put the foundations down first, it just won't work. It'll be a waste of time. And if there's one thing we all have the capacity to do, as you and I have been panelists on this topic, kindness. Does kindness pay? Is there a point to kindness? Yes, there is. We all feel better. We all feel more motivated. We get things done. I went for a walk the other day, and on my way back, there was a car parked 2 wheels on the pavement. Nothing unusual, until the lady in the car rolled down her window as I walked up to the car and apologized for taking up space on the pavement. Now, she knew that she was being a nuisance. Not as much as she thought, because me just being me, I could easily walk past. But had I had a twin pram or a wheelchair or something, I would have struggled. But she would have moved out of the way. That was her attitude. So I have no idea who she is. And we just had a good old chat for a few minutes, putting the world to rights and about parking on the pavement or not. But that was kindness. That was what I would call looking after your fellow human being. She was doing something that benefited her at that time, but she knew that she could be in the way of somebody else and was prepared quickly to move out of the way. We can do that at work as well. We can just have a look around and see, how are things going here? Are we actually being kind and helpful to one another? It costs nothing. All it takes is the attitude to want to make things running smoothly.
Couple of things there. To your point, having this top down, bottom up everywhere. We're all human beings, and as I said earlier, we can all have days when things aren't going so well, and we can all ask each other, how are you? What's going on? You don't seem your normal self. But all too often, I believe, and in my experience, people don't ask because, well, what if I ask Peter, he's not his normal self, and he bites my head off? That's not going to kill me. You tearing my head off in no uncertain terms is not going to kill me, but it might just spark something in you, actually, that someone else has seen you're not having a good day, and you might sort of address something, do something differently. Equally, I might say, "You okay?" And someone might say, well, actually, and I go, what do I do now? It's then knowing, signposting someone, having that compassion, sitting with that, listening to the overall story, not the content. All too often people get caught in the content of the story. It's listening to you, but also thinking, what would you like me to do at a certain point? And things can be happening. We've spoken before about things can be happening in the workplace, but someone might be having stuff going on outside the workplace. For instance, I spoke to you the other day, didn't I, Peter, about this report from last year about working parents. They may have that be torn between they have responsibilities to do in the workplace, but the rising increase of children's poor mental health, and they're then torn. And a parent might be in the workplace. Do I come into work? Do I not? Am I presenteeism because I've got to leave or go to school? But how does that, the rest of the team or the leader, the team leader, empathy and compassion with what's going on for that person? And it's tricky because that person might have to leave early, they might come in late, and then the other team might think, well, hang on a second, how have I always got to pick up the pieces? Hang on a second, that person is having some stuff going on with their child or even a carer. It's having that compassion for people's situations.
And that is such a difficult thing, because you will have those who think, oh, she's boss's favorite, she always gets time off. And it's a question about how much openness should we have.
Yes.
Do you really want to tell about your trials and tribulations at home? Because it could be children with difficulty at school or difficult diagnosis. You could have elderly parents. I know I was in that boat, and that takes a lot of time. There could be accident, there could be illness, there could be all sorts of things. Even the family pet is a reason to be off work or to be distracted, because it's part of the family. So where do we draw the line, or should we draw a line? I think if we normalize more that actually we are human beings who have other things going on in life that we can't completely ignore when we are at work, I think we're heading somewhere. But of course, there is the business angle to it as well. If I let all my people go and sort their personal things out during working hours, then what is my business doing then? I'm paying them to do nothing. They're here on a contract to do a certain amount of work. So it is a tricky one, because you need to understand the business owner's perspective as well as the employee's perspective. When I say employee, actually, we are all employees.
Yes.
Don't care whether you're a manager, director, or receptionist, or janitor, whatever you are an employee. So we shouldn't think that the people who has manager or director on their business card are not human beings. They are, and they have similar things going on in their lives as the rest of us.
Mm.
So whilst you were talking there as well, it sounded very much as if you wanted us all to be what is the intention, I believe, of the mental health first aiders. Someone who is not afraid of having the conversation and who can't do an awful lot, but who can at least signpost or suggest something. And this is not a conversation about the pros and cons of mental health first aiders. I just think the best thing we can do with those is for all of us to have that qualification so that we all have the same starting point and understanding about our fellow human beings.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a big push for mental health first aiders, but I have always advocated that we can, whether we have the title of a mental health first aider or not, we can all learn what mental health is and what it isn't. We can all spot the signs in our colleagues. We can all have those conversations, and if we know what the organisation's support, availability, and accessibility is, we can all signpost that person to where that needs to be. And in terms of openness, yes, we don't have to, it's not a case of telling everyone everything, and quite often if someone says, I'm struggling with my mental health, the other person, do they need to know? Do they need to say, explain why, or just accept? If you told me that, I accept that you're struggling with something. Oh, Peter, do you know that what the organisation provides is this, and this? Let me know what you need. We don't need to bear all. It's not about telling everyone everything, because it's also a very, very private matter. But I think weaving in the compassion that we are all vulnerable, all able to be hurt. Stuff happens, even those people that think I'm not the type to have poor mental health, which is what someone once said to me. How do we know when something comes along and how it's going to affect us? Because it could be someone that we work with, it could be someone at home, and the ripple effect of that. But having that compassion that, okay, someone's struggling with something, let's do something about it. If we flip that into work, it might be they're struggling with a new system, with a new payment system, with a new structure, with a new strategy, with a new mission. What do we do? Do we just sit there and ignore them, or do we step in and say, how can I help you manage that? If we can do that in the workplace, surely we can do that when someone is struggling in another way.
I love that example, because if we can do change management, we can do so many other things. It's about listening to the individual and understanding what's happening for them and take it from there. And there is no one size, no approach fits all. We have to just take it as it comes. So thank you.
There's no silver bullet, and I think just each organisation, each individual has to deal and manage with what they have at the time.
Yes.
At the same time, we are all human beings.
We are all human beings, and we would love to hear what your experiences are out there about compassion in the workplace, at home, everywhere else. What have you done? What can we do? What have Sylvia and I missed in our conversation? Yes. So let us know what you think, and thank you for watching. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.